Leon Kennedy walks out of a Spanish village with the president's daughter, a cure for a parasite that nearly turned him into a monster, and a win that should have felt complete. 5 years later, Chris Redfield is standing in the dirt of a West African town called Kijujo, fighting the exact same parasite, working for an organisation that didn't exist the last time we saw him, hunting a man everyone thinks is dead, and about to find out that his old partner isn't dead either. Capcom never made a game about what happened in between, but they didn't skip it. They scattered it across an animated movie, a spin-off nobody finished, a DLC campaign, and a file of in-game files, until the 5 quietest years in Resident Evil history turn into one of the best hidden stories in the franchise. So today, we're putting it back together. This is a timeline between Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5. Quick reset, because this matters for everything that follows. By the end of Resident Evil 4, Umbrella is already finished as a company. The corporate collapse actually happened the year before, in 2003, when the leaked files and a runaway AI program blew up in court, and Umbrella was declared bankrupt in 2004. Resident Evil 4 isn't really an Umbrella story at all. It is the first game that shows us what fills the vacuum when Umbrella left behind: black market parasites, private buyers, and a single man pulling strings from the shadows, Albert Wesker. Leon's mission in Spain was simple on paper: recover the president's kidnapped daughter, Ashley Graham, from a cult called Los Illuminados. What he actually walked into was a live demonstration of Wesker's next business plan. The cult's leader, Osmond Sadler, had been cultivating a parasite called Las Plagas, a mind control organism that could turn ordinary villagers into an army on command. Wesker didn't care about the cult, he cared about the parasite as a product. And here's a detail everyone remembers, but nobody sits with long enough. Leon's old partner, Jack Krauser, was already working for Wesker the entire time. Leon kills Krauser in the endgame, cures himself and Ashley, and blows Sadler apart with a rocket launcher. A clean, total victory. Then Ada Wong shows up on the cliffside, takes the Las Plagas sample right out of Leon's hand, and reveals she'd been working for Wesker too. That single stolen sample is the hinge the entire secret timeline swings on. Wesker didn't need Sadler's cult anymore. He needed the biology, and now he had it. While Leon was filling his report on Las Plagas back in the States, something bigger was forming in Europe: the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, the BSAA. Here's the part that barely gets said out loud in the games themselves. The BSAA wasn't born clean. It was founded by a coalition of pharmaceutical companies at the request of the US government, specifically to hunt down the black market weapons Umbrella left scattered across the world after its collapse. The 2 people who watched the Arkley Mansion burn back in 1998 are among its founding original 7 members. But one of the companies quietly bankrolling this anti-bioterrorism task force was pharmaceutical giant called Trisol. Sit with that for a second. The organization built to stop the next Umbrella was partly funded by the company that was about to become the next Umbrella. Nobody in the BSAA knows it yet. That single irony is the engine of everything that happened between 2004 and 2009. And the BSAA get tested almost immediately. In 2004, a Mediterranean city called Terra Grigia is attacked by a bioterror cell using an army of hunter creatures, an event covered in Resident Evil Revelations. The city is abandoned and destroyed rather than saved, which becomes a massive scandal. A year later, in the summer of 2005, Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield dig into the wreckage of that attack and discover it wasn't really a terrorist plot at all. It was a false flag operation engineered by a BSAA official named Morgan Lansdale to grab more power for himself. Lansdale's exposed and arrested, the old Federal Bioterrorism Commission collapses and its remains get folded straight into the BSAA, which now gets full backing from the United Nations. So by mid-2005, the BSAA has survived its first internal betrayal. It has no idea a second, much larger one is already funding half its budget. This is a piece of the timeline most players have literally never seen because it's not in a mainline game. It's in 2012 animated film called Resident Evil Damnation and is set in 2005, squarely in the gap between Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5. Leon, now working for a presidential counter-terrorism unit, gets sent into a fictional Eastern European country called the Eastern Slav Republic, which is in the middle of a civil war. Officially, he's investigating rumours of biological weapons, and officially, he walks straight into a Las Plagas outbreak, the exact parasite from Spain, now being weaponized as a battlefield tool deployed on soldiers by a defense contractor working both sides of the war for profit. And then Ada Wong is there too, posing as an BSAA agent, of all things using the organization's own credibility as cover while she quietly collects a fresh Las Plagas sample for her actual employer. She tells Leon flat out that she's there for the parasite. Leon spends the film watching a president waging an unethical war using the infected soldier as disposable weapons, loses people he tries to protect, and ends the mission having stopped one buyer while Ada walks away with more biological material anyway. Here's what this movie quietly proves. In canon, Las Plagas didn't die with Sadler's cult in Spain. It became a travelling commodity. Somebody, and by somebody I mean Wesker's network, is actively shopping it around to war profiteers only 1 year after Resident Evil 4 ended. Damnation isn't a detour. It's the clearest evidence we get that Wesker's post-Resident Evil 4 plan was already moving on multiple continents at once. It also quietly deepens the Leon and Ada relationship without ever resolving it. The writer behind Damnation had said the history is left deliberately open here, somewhere in the run-up to Resident Evil 5, and it's never fully spelled out, which, if you know anything about these two, is exactly on brand. Now we get to the single most important night in the entire 5-year gap, and it's one Capcom actually let players play, just 3 years after the fact, as the Resident Evil 5 prequel DLC called Lost in Nightmares. August 2006, the BSAA gets a reliable tip on the location of Oswald Spencer, the founder of Umbrella itself, the man behind the entire T-Virus program, who's been hiding since the corporation's collapse. Chris and Jill are sent to his private European state to arrest him, and more importantly, to finally get a lead on Albert Wesker's whereabouts. This state is deliberately built to feel like a haunted callback, dead bodyguards, all traps, a house that consciously echoes the original Spencer mansion from 1998. Chris and Jill both say it out loud, that place drags them right back to Raccoon City. It's not subtle, and it's not supposed to be. They find Spencer's private library. He's already dead, shot through the chest, and standing over the body is Albert Wesker. What follows is not a fair fight. Wesker, post Ouroboros testing, is simply on another level physically now, and he tears through Chris and Jill without much effort. He grabs Chris by the throat, drags him to a window, and is one motion away from killing him when Jill throws herself at Wesker to save her partner. The two of them go straight through the glass and off the cliff into the dark water below. The BSAA searches the coastline for 3 months, no bodies. Jill Valentine, one of the BSAA's own founding members, is officially declared dead. Chris keeps visiting an empty grave. Except neither of them died. Wesker survived the fall, and of course he did. And he deliberately kept Jill alive, not out of mercy, as a resource. This is the part of the timeline that Resident Evil 5 only gives you in scattered computer files if you actually go looking for them. The 3 years between the death at Spencer's estate and the opening of Resident Evil 5. Wesker takes Jill and starts injecting her with a compound called P30, a drug that doesn't erase a person's will so much as make it endlessly suggestible, turning her into an obedient mass operative who has no memory of choosing any of it. At the same time, Wesker quietly steering Tricell, yes, the same pharmaceutical company secretly bankrolling the BSAA, into taking over an old Umbrella research site buried in caverns beneath Kijujo, Africa. That's where Spencer's originally progenitor virus research gets pulled out of storage and pushed into two directions at once. A militarized, controllable strains of Las Plagas for the black market, sold through a middleman named Ricardo Irvin, and something far worse being built for Wesker personally, a doomsday agent called Ouroboros. And all of this happens while Tricell's CEO in Africa, Excella Gion, keeps the BSAA suspicions pointed anywhere but at her own company, using a civil war in Kijujo as a perfect cover for a private army and a private virus program. By 2008, a new BSAA recruit named Shiva Elamore joins the West African branch. By January 2009, Chris Redfield, still haunted by the empty grave with Jill's name on it, gets sent to Kijujo to investigate Irving's weapon deal and get partner with Shiva. He has no idea his dead partner is still alive under that mask, 3 years into captivity, standing somewhere in the same facility he's about to walk into. That's the moment Resident Evil 5 actually begins. So why tell 5 years of story this way, scattered across the movie, a DLC and in-game text files, instead of just giving us one more numbered game? Because the point of this gap isn't really the plot, it's the shape of it. Every piece of the secret timeline is the same idea, wearing a different location. A weapon born from Umbrella's wreckage gets picked up by somebody new, sold to somebody desperate, and used before anyone official even noticed it's moved. Las Plagas goes from a cult's tool in Spain to a war profiteer's product in Eastern Europe to a controlled military asset in Africa. 3 years, 3 continents, one steadily upgrading parasite, and the entire time the people meant to be stopping it are being funded, infiltrated and manipulated by the very source of the problem. By the time Chris Redfield lands in Kijujo in January 2009, he's walking into the end of a 5-year con that started the second Ada Wong closer and around that vial on the cliffside in Spain. So what do you think, guys? This timeline between Resident Evil 4 and 5 is actually meaningful? Does it show some more depth to us? Or do you think it was just like an afterthought and that's the reason why Capcom never made a game about it? Please do let me know your thoughts and opinion in the comment section down below in this video. So until then, I'll catch you with another video on my channel. Look after